In the quiet, moonlit hours of a summer night in 1912, a small Iowa town became the stage for one of America's most chilling unsolved mysteries. 8 souls, 6 of them children, lay sleeping in their beds, unaware that an axe-wielding intruder would shatter the stillness of Villisca forever. The brutality of the crime, the eerie details left behind, and the shadow of a killer who slipped into the night have haunted investigators and storytellers for over a century. Who could commit such a heinous act? Why did they target this beloved family? And how have the echoes of that night lingered in the house that still stands today? What drove the killer to slaughter an entire family and their guests with such savage precision? Was it a personal vendetta, a random act of violence, or the work of a drifter riding the rails? Could the paranormal whispers surrounding the house hold clues to the truth that has eluded justice for 112 years? On the night of June 9, 1912, in Villisca, Iowa, the Moore family and 2 young guests returned home from a joyful Children's Day program at the Presbyterian Church. The small town, known for its close-knit community and agricultural charm, was a place where doors were often left unlocked and neighbors trusted one another. But sometime after midnight, a killer entered the modest white frame house at 508 East 2nd Street, wielding an axe that would leave a permanent scar on Villisca's history. The next morning, the discovery of 8 bludgeoned bodies sent shockwaves through the town, transforming a peaceful community into a place gripped by fear and suspicion. The Villisca Axe Murders remain one of America's most infamous unsolved homicides, a case that has spawned countless theories, investigations, and even claims of paranormal activity in the house where the tragedy unfolded. The victims were the Moore family. Josiah B. Moore, 43, a respected businessman and churchgoer. His wife Sarah, 39, a devoted mother and church pianist. And their 4 children: Herman, 11, Mary Catherine, 10, Arthur, 7, and Paul, 5. Joining them that night were 2 sisters, Lena Stillinger, 12, and Ina Stillinger, 8, friends of Mary Catherine, who had been invited for a sleepover after the church event. The Moores were an affluent, well-liked family in Villisca, with Josiah running a successful implement business. The Stillinger sisters came from a wealthy farming family, their presence adding to the innocence of the scene that would soon turn horrific. Among the suspects, 3 figures stood out. Reverend Lynn George Jacqueline Kelly, a traveling preacher, was a peculiar character with a history of mental instability and allegations of peeping and inappropriate behavior toward young women. He was in Villisca that night, attending the same church program, and left town early the next morning, reportedly making cryptic comments about 8 dead souls before the bodies were discovered. Frank F. Jones, a wealthy state senator and former employer of Josiah, was rumored to have a rivalry with him, possibly fueled by business competition or personal grievances, including an alleged affair between Josiah and Jones's daughter-in-law. William Mansfield, a suspected serial killer, was linked to similar axe murders across the Midwest, with some believing he was hired by Jones. Other transients, like Andy Sawyer and Joe Ricks, were briefly considered but dismissed due to alibis. or lack of evidence. The crime scene was a study in methodical horror. The killer, believed to have entered through an unlocked back door, moved silently through the house. Each victim was struck multiple times in the head with the blunt side of an axe, with Josiah receiving the most blows, his face nearly unrecognizable. The axe, belonging to Josiah, was left leaning against a wall downstairs, wiped clean of fingerprints. Mirrors in the house were covered with sheets or clothing, a detail that baffled investigators. A slab of bacon, wrapped in a dish towel, was found on the floor, and a bowl of bloody water suggested the killer washed their hands before leaving. Curtains and aprons were hung over windows, and the doors were locked behind the intruder, indicating a calculated effort to delay discovery. Cigarette butts in the attic fueled speculation that the killer hid there, waiting for the family to sleep. Most chillingly, Lena Stillinger showed signs of defensive wounds, suggesting she may have woken during the attack, making her the only victim who might have seen the killer's face. The investigation was chaotic from the start. By 7 a.m. on June 10th, neighbor Mary Peckham noticed the Morehouse was unusually quiet and alerted Josiah's brother, Ross, who discovered the gruesome scene. Word spread quickly, and townspeople flooded the house, contaminating the crime scene. Before police could secure it, investigators followed numerous leads, but the lack of forensic technology in 1912 hindered progress. Reverend Kelly became a prime suspect after his alleged confession, claiming God had instructed him to suffer the children to come unto me. He later recanted, and his small stature 119 pounds raised doubts about his ability to wield an axe with such force. Frank Jones was investigated due to his rivalry with Josiah, but no hard evidence tied him to the crime. William Mansfield was arrested in 1916, but payroll records placed him in Illinois at the time, and he was released. The case grew colder as years passed, with theories ranging from a lone drifter to a serial killer linked to similar axe murders in Colorado, Kansas, and New Orleans. The FBI later suggested a Transian killer, possibly Paul Muller, a German immigrant suspected in other crimes, but no definitive proof emerged. A chilling twist emerged in the theory of a serial killer. Bill James, in his book The Man from the Train argued that the Villisca murders were part of a broader pattern of axe murders across the Midwest and beyond between 1911 and 1912. These crimes shared eerie similarities: victims killed in their sleep, heads bludgeoned with an axe, mirrors covered, and windows draped. James posited that a drifter, possibly Paul Muller, rode the railroads, striking remote towns and vanishing without a trace. This theory suggests the Moores were not targeted for personal reasons, but were victims of a roving predator, a faceless killer who left no clues and evaded capture. The possibility that the murderer was a stranger, unconnected to Villisca's tight-knit community, adds a layer of terror to an already horrifying case. The legal proceedings were as frustrating as the investigation. Reverend Kelly was arrested in 1917 and tried twice. His first trial ended in a hung jury, with 11 jurors voting for acquittal. In the second trial, he was acquitted, largely because his confession was deemed coerced and his mental instability undermined his credibility. No other suspect was ever brought to trial. A slander lawsuit filed by William Mansfield against Detective James Wilkerson, who accused him of the murders, resulted in Mansfield's favor, further muddying the case. The lack of convictions left Villisca's residents divided, with some believing Jones orchestrated the crime, others suspecting Kelly, and many fearing an outsider who could strike again. The Villisca Axe Murders teach us the fragility of safety and the enduring power of unanswered questions. In an era before modern forensics, justice relied heavily on human judgment, which could be clouded by bias, rumor, and fear. The case reminds us to approach mysteries with both skepticism and open-mindedness, recognizing that truth can remain elusive even after a century. It also highlights the human need for closure, as the town's grief and the house's haunted reputation reflect our struggle to make sense of senseless violence. For those drawn to the paranormal, the lingering spirits rumored to haunt the house suggest that some truths may lie beyond the physical evidence. What do you think happened that night in Villisca? Could a single killer have acted alone? Or was it a conspiracy born of local rivalries? Will modern technology, like DNA analysis, ever unlock the secrets of this century-old crime? Share your theories, visit the Villisca Axe Murder House, or dive into the many books and documentaries to explore this haunting mystery further. If you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries and the stories that keep us guessing, subscribe for more deep dives into history's darkest corners. Your support keeps these tales alive and encourages us to uncover new angles on cases like this one. Sources: Fiend Incarnate, Villisca Axe Murders of 1912 by Edgar V. Epperly.